Week 7 of the NFL season is in the books, and a couple videos ago, I reacted to NFL.com's quarterback rankings for the 2025 season, and I like to do my own as well, so that's what we're going to be doing today, pretty much ranking every single quarterback that's taking a meaningful snap this season. So yeah, we have a lot of quarterbacks to get through here today. There's going to be guys that have played a game or two. There's going to be some quarterbacks that are starting this upcoming week that I don't have in here, like I'm not ranking Andy Dalton, and I have so many tiers. We're going to drop these guys in. I think I may condense some of these. We'll see at the end if it's just too many. So we basically have the MVP candidates. We have elite quarterbacks. We have great starters. We have good enough, young and exceeding, young and struggling, the overall disappointments, the injured guys, and quarterbacks that should be backups that are maybe playing right now for a different reason. Like I said, I may condense some of these top tiers, like maybe I just get rid of MVP candidates and it's just elite quarterbacks. Maybe I don't need great starter as well or something like that. So we'll get into this. We'll start off with Lamar Jackson, who honestly at one point this year was playing like an elite QB. He was putting up great points. He's looking as he did in previous years, looked like an MVP candidate. The defense cannot keep him in games whatsoever, and Lamar recently got hurt. I think we've seen good enough sample size from Lamar Jackson to have him still as an elite quarterback. He's not an MVP candidate because his team also really wasn't helping him out, more specifically the defense and the offensive line. But I do think when Lamar has been out there, and it's been a decent sample size, he is still playing like an elite quarterback. He's playing like a top 5 quarterback in the game. When you look at every single advanced stat, every single basic stat, and when you're just watching him out there, he pretty much doesn't look any different than he did last year, where he finished runner-up in MVP. So I still think Lamar Jackson has been an elite quarterback this year, but his backup, Cooper Rush, has been bad. Yeah, he's a backup in this league. I actually kind of like the Cooper Rush signing. I thought he showed flashes of just being a solid quarterback last year in Dallas towards the end of the year, and honestly, over the years as well when Dak Prescott has been injured, but it has not been good so far for Cooper Rush in Baltimore against the Houston Texans and against the LA Rams, because it's now been kind of 2 games of the Cooper Rush era. Joe Burrow, I'm just going to have injured. He played basically like 6 quarters, 7 quarters this year. He looked fine in those quarters, better in that Jags game than he did in the Cleveland Browns game, but yeah, such a small sample size. I think I'm just going to have him in the injured tier, but I would say if you just want to look at those quarters in a vacuum, maybe good enough this year. Got him a win in week 1, got them a win in week 2, but we saw a little bit of Jake Browning at that point, who we'll eventually get to. I think Josh Allen this year has still been an elite quarterback. It's tough because now I think I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I don't know if he's been I think just a good overall quarterback this season. I don't think Josh Allen is an MVP candidate, which may be kind of silly. They are 4-2, and I feel like the offense has been fine, and Josh Allen's been a great fantasy quarterback, but I do worry about maybe the Bills not reaching expectations so far, and Allen is coming off an MVP crown from last year, but I don't think he's an MVP candidate. I don't know how many I'm going to have in that tier. I may have a decent amount in the good quarterbacks, or maybe I should just have it as the great QBs because we're going to have good enough here. So I think this will make a little bit more sense as we get throughout this. Okay, this may be a hot take, but I think Trevor Lawrence has been disappointing this year. I just feel like, I don't know, man. Maybe because I have high expectations every single year for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I know they're, 4-3 this year. They were everybody's favorite darling coming out of September. But man, there's been some disappointing games from Trevor Lawrence. And now, some of it has been his fault and some of it hasn't. This team has had a ton of drops this year if you watch that Rams game. And maybe that comes down on coaching because the Rams were just fine out there. Matthew Stafford threw for 5 touchdowns. And a lot of Travis Hunter's yardage came in garbage time. So maybe this one can come down on coaching. But if you look at EPA per player, if you just kind of watch the tape of Trevor Lawrence, I don't know, man. I just have high expectations, like I said, every single year, and I get let down. And I just don't think I could consider Trevor Lawrence a good quarterback anymore just because of what he did in college, what he did in his sophomore year with Doug Peterson. It looked better to start off the year. But maybe this is the offensive line. Maybe it's the running attack. Maybe it's just coaching where Trevor Lawrence has been let down for most of his career. But I feel like we never got that top 10 season. I guess his sophomore year was the closest we got to it, where they ended up, making the playoffs that year and winning a game. I think Patrick Mahomes has still been an MVP candidate this year. Got off to a little bit of a slower start. Wasn't perfect against the Giants or the Eagles, or maybe even the Chargers. But the last 4 weeks, Patrick Mahomes has been a great quarterback. He was good against the Jaguars. I know they had that pick 6 by Devin Lloyd in the end zone. He was great against the Baltimore Ravens. He was elite this past Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders. And he was also great 2 weeks ago when they ended up beating the Detroit Lions 30-17. And this was some part without Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. Both of those guys are back healthy for this team. It looks like Rashee Rice didn't miss a beat in their Week 7 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. And Patrick Mahomes has actually actually the MVP candidate right now. He's up there in EPA per play, and I think through at least 7 weeks so far, I know they're 4-3, so you really can't say like he should win MVP today, and I don't think I would give him that award today, but when in doubt, Patrick Mahomes could definitely win MVP at the end of the year, and that's why he's kind of favored to do so. Joe Flacco, I mean, at this point, is he good enough? I don't know. He was terrible in Cleveland, looked really good in his first game with the Cincinnati Bengals, but I still think that Joe Flacco is just a backup in this league. Maybe he's going to turn this Bengals season around. Maybe this one should go up and good enough because Cleveland, maybe he just didn't have the coaching philosophy, maybe didn't have the receiving help. I don't know, because the receivers are much better in Cincinnati, but man, that offensive line is way worse. The running game is way worse as well, and he's had a lot of time in his career to look at Tomlin-led defenses, because he doesn't like to adjust whatsoever. So it's all the same to Joe Flacco. And maybe if he has like another one of those weeks, he could be in the good enough tier, but probably should be a backup in the 2025 season. I think Bo Nix has been good enough this year. I don't know if he's been, because he got off to a little bit of a rough start this year. He was great in the second half against the Giants, which a team that has a good front seven, maybe not the best secondary in the world. There's been some good Bo Nix games. There's been some bad Bo Nix games. And maybe some of this will kind of change here throughout Young and Exceeding and Young and Struggling. Maybe he's in Young and Exceeding, but he is older than a lot of quarterbacks here, given how old he was coming out of college. I mean, Daniel Jones is 100% an MVP candidate. Maybe this is more so a Jonathan Taylor is an MVP candidate, but Daniel Jones has brought in the Indianapolis Colts to 6-1. If I told you at the beginning of the year, the Colts were going to have a 6-1 in their record through 7 weeks, you would have said they were 1-6. The Daniel Jones experiment was a disaster, and Shane Steichen was probably fired. That's the talks that were had in the offseason. A lot of smart people thought they should still give Anthony Richardson a chance. They didn't do that, and Daniel Jones has saved a lot of jobs. He saved the GM Chris Ballard a job. He saved Shane Steichen a job. In my opinion, he was going to be let go if the Colts underperformed this year, which a lot of expectations had them doing. And the defense has been all over the field. They just had a monster offensive performance against the LA Chargers. They're getting great wide receiver play out of Michael Pittman, Josh Downs when he's been healthy. Obviously, Tyler Warren is going to finish top 3, top 4 in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. He may win that award this year, and Daniel Jones has gotten it done. He's limited the turnovers, limited the fumbles. He's gotten better O-line play this year with the Colts than he had in maybe any of his years with the New York Giants. And he's number 3 in EPA per play. It's kind of crazy at this point. So CJ Stroud, another disappointment, man. CJ Stroud had a great rookie year, and it's just been downhill ever since. He was so good in 2023. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2024 was a little disappointing throughout the regular season, but hey, they won a playoff game. They beat the Chargers in a very weak AFC South. They were able to win. You know what? They had a hard-fought game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, and this year, man, they haven't really had like that impressive win so far this season. They're 2-4 this season, and their 2 wins are against the Tennessee Titans, who just fired their coach, and they're the second worst team in the league record-wise behind the Jets, and the Baltimore Ravens, a team that did not have Lamar Jackson in that game. CJ Stroud has been going backwards. Now, some of that has been maybe the offensive coordinators changing over the last few years. Maybe it's the offensive line and the GM just kind of neglecting to improve that offensive line. A thing we all knew was going to be an issue for the Texans this year, and it's not given CJ Stroud any time to succeed in the 2025 season. I still think he's a talented quarterback. I still think he could be a great quarterback one day and kind of recapture what he did in his rookie season, but we have been going backwards ever since that 2023 season. Justin Herbert this year, I want to say he's been good enough overall. Like, Herbert has definitely been better than Bo Nix. So, I don't know if these guys deserve to be on the same tier. Do I want to throw Justin Herbert up to the great quarterback tier where he lost his starting running back in Amarian Hampton? He lost his backup in Najee Harris. He's lost a ton of offensive line help this year. And you know what? He's had a lot of receivers step up in a Keenan Allen, in a Gadsden, in a Ladd McConkey, a Quentin Johnston. So maybe he's done a lot with being kind of banged up this year and the defense really not being as good as maybe some people expected, or maybe it's just been as bad as some people expected. So maybe I end up bumping up Herbert because I do think record wise, and if you give him a little bit better of an offensive line, I do think the Chargers would have a lot better of a record than 4-3 right now after starting off the season 3-0 and now being 1-3 in their last 4 games. But I think Herbert has been good enough this season. Like I said, maybe at the end of this, if I feel like this quarterback is an anomaly here and an outlier, I'll bump him up at the end. Next one, Geno Smith. I mean, the disappointments for sure. The disappointments have also been some of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Geno Smith at this point is maybe a backup in his career. How smart does John Schneider, the GM of the Seattle Seahawks, look after moving on from Geno Smith, who's been a very good quarterback, maybe a data darling over the last few years for the Seahawks, to go for Sam Darnold, who's really only had one good year in the NFL, and that was last year with Kevin O'Connell. That is looking like one of the best moves of the offseason. and the Raiders trading for Geno Smith, which I liked at the time in the offseason, which gave the Raiders just a competent quarterback, has just unfortunately been a disaster this season. So yeah, Geno Smith has definitely been a disappointment, as the Raiders may have another new quarterback next year, and it's really not helped out Pete Carroll whatsoever this season. Jared Goff, I think this year has been a great quarterback. Obviously, he's in a great system with the Detroit Lions that haven't lost the beat. John Morden is now the offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson in Chicago. He's got two great running backs in Gibbs and Montgomery. He's got an elite wide receiver one in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Other good targets in a JMO or a Sam Laporta. The offensive line is still great as well, headlined by maybe the best offensive lineman in the league in Penei Sewell. Like, maybe I could put Jared Goff in good enough, and he's maybe on the same tier as Herbert, a tier behind these guys. I just feel like Bo Nix right now is an outlier in this tier, so I'm still kind of figuring out what this is going to be eventually later on. Justin Fields at this point, I don't even know if I had expectations going into the year. I mean, after week one, I had good expectations for him, but man, I think at this point in his career, Justin Fields is a backup quarterback. The Jets are 0-7. I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated from a playoff spot, but they're going to be in a few weeks. They're going to go to Tyrod Taylor, it looks like, next week. It's just been a disappointment. Justin Fields really hasn't turned the ball over a lot this year. It's because he's not just taking chances, and he's taking so many sacks, and it's been very tough to watch. And I feel so bad for Jets fans that once again, we're in the same cycle. 0-7. 0-7. That is brutal, man. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa, he's a disappointment as well. I think like Lawrence and Stroud are still starting caliber quarterbacks in this league. Geno and Tua may be backups at this point. I mean, Tua's a lot younger than Geno. Who knows if the Dolphins are going to cut Tua at the end of the season? The Dolphins are 1-6. Mike McDaniel may not be the head coach at the end of the year. He's going to be one of the more popular offensive coordinator candidates in the offseason, 100%. I still think Mike McDaniel is a great offensive mind. Maybe he's not a good leader for this Dolphins team right now, which I feel like has just kind of lost its energy, its motivation in the 2025 season. They've dealt with a ton of injuries so far this year on the defensive side. I mean, their run defense has been bad. Regardless, Tyreek Hill is out for the year, and Tua has taken a step back every single year since his breakout season in Mike McDaniel's first year there a couple years ago, where Tyreek Hill was amazing, Jalen Waddle was amazing. I know they lost in round number 1 in the wild card matchup, but just the fact that they got there, and I just feel like we've been going back ever since. Like, Stroud and Tua were so good a couple years ago, and we haven't recaptured that whatsoever. And Tua may need a year as a backup. He's maybe got to get humbled like a Mac Jones, like a Baker Mayfield, like a Sam Darnold, and he could be the next like turn it around story in a few years, like Daniel Jones. So Drake May, I mean, is it crazy to put him in an MVP candidate right now? The New England Patriots are 4-2, the top of the AFC East. And it's not just like Drake May has been good enough this year. The Pats have had a terrible schedule. Now they have a favorable schedule coming up. They play some bad teams, but they beat the Bills in Buffalo. And that's maybe their only good win this year. They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Steelers, but they beat the Dolphins. They beat the Titans. The Panthers and the Saints, they beat as well. But Drake May has looked great in these games, and you can really only play the teams that are on your schedule. And he has looked great in mostly every single game this year, maybe outside of week number 1 against the Raiders. And his numbers would have looked a lot better in week number 3 against the Steelers if they didn't have all those turnovers. Some of those were not his fault whatsoever. But he's basically number 2 in estimated points added this year by a quarterback. He's 4th in EPA per play. Yes, I'm taking Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen over him, but this is just a 2025 QB tier list. This isn't who I'm building a franchise around or who I think's better in a one-game playoff game, because yes, I'm taking Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Lamar 3, or Lamar 2, Allen 3. But yeah, Daniel Jones and Drake May have been maybe this group, the 3 best quarterbacks in the league this year. I mean, Dak Prescott is up there as well. I feel like Dak Prescott could be an MVP candidate if the Cowboys had a little bit better of a record. They're 3-3-1. This Cowboys team can definitely be a playoff squad. They have an elite wide receiver 1 in CeeDee Lamb, an elite wide receiver 2 in George Pickens, who is looking so much better with a competent quarterback in Dallas than he has over the last few years in Pittsburgh. And this is coming from a Steelers fan when he had to play with Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields. He looks amazing out there. Javonte Williams looks rejuvenated in Dallas as well. They may be a buyer at the deadline to try to make the playoffs. Yeah, they almost lost to the Giants, but they could have beaten the Carolina Panthers. They've had some heartbreaking losses this year as well. And yeah, I think Dak has also kind of, it's tough for the MVP candidate situation because right now the Colts, the Chiefs are 4-3. Yes, only one or half a game better than the Cowboys, but it's just kind of the Mahomes factor at the end of the day. But Drake May's 5-2, Daniel Jones is 6-1. They're going to be in that conversation more than I think Dak Prescott at the moment. They're 3-3-1. But yeah, these guys have also been elite this year in Allen, Lamar, and Dak Prescott. Next up, we have Michael Penix. I mean, I think Penix, oh man, it's so tough. Like, is he young and struggling? Is he young and exceeding? This is maybe where I have to like change up this bracket right here to maybe boom or bust. So like, you're going to get some great weeks. You're going to get some bad weeks. This guy beat the Buffalo Bills on Monday night in prime time, but he also lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. So I feel like you don't know what you're going to get out of Michael Penix. They just lost to an extremely banged up 49ers team. Maybe that comes down on coaching or the offensive game plan. Michael Penix has made some great plays this year, but he's also had some bad moments. And I think you don't really know what you're going to get out of Penix every single week. I may drop Bo Nix to this tier, but Bo Nix may go up to good enough because the Broncos are 5-2 this season. So yeah, I'm going to keep Bo Nix in this tier right now. You can let me know if you think Bo Nix is a little bit too high there. Matthew Stafford, oh my God, like MVP candidate. I mean, shout out to the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Rams, all being 5-2 through 7 weeks. And Stafford has a case for the MVP conversation right now. I like the Rams a lot going into this year. I was a little worried though, because Stafford was banged up coming out of training camp and heading into the season. And even with Puka out in week number 7 against the Jaguars, he threw for 5 touchdowns in London. He has looked unreal this season. His poise, his touch, the deep ball, man, it has been perfect this year. And Stafford is aging like fine wine. He's been getting better and better over the years. I think he's an MVP candidate as well. I think you got to finish like 1 or 2 in your respective conference. I know Mahomes has like the worst record here and they are 4-3, but now at full strength. And I don't know, like you could just have these guys as the MVP candidates, but I do think Mahomes is up there. I think Stafford is up there as well. I think Jalen Hurts, he's either been good enough or the great quarterbacks this year. I think Hurts has been good enough for this team. He doesn't turn the ball over. The deep ball looked great against the Minnesota Vikings in week number 7. A nice win that kind of got close, and Hurts has some bad moments this year. He was bad against the Giants on Thursday night. He's been disappointing so far at times with a great running back, great receivers, a solid offensive line when it's healthy. But I just feel like it could be a little bit better this year. And I do think Hurts is probably more in line with like Goff and Herbert this season. I just like feel like Bo Nix is still kind of like that polar bear in Texas in this tier. I don't know if he would go to boom or bust. Next up, we have Russell Wilson. I guess he's a backup at this point in his career. I honestly didn't think so. Like, he was fine as a Steelers starter last year. Looked good in the second half. Could not beat a good team. Was not good against the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, he's either a disappointment or a backup. Probably at this point, he's a backup. I guess the Steelers made the right decision between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. For Jordan Love, I feel like he's been good enough this year, right? Like the Packers are 4-1-1. Their only loss being to the Cleveland Browns. They're technically the 1 seed in the NFC, and I feel like he's been good enough to have this team only at 1 loss this year. The 1 week they tied, they dropped 40 points in that one, and that can come back down on the defense a little bit more. Kyler Murray's been a disappointment as well this season, man. Like, Jacoby Brissett looked maybe better than any Kyler Murray game this year in week number 7. I don't know if that's a Drew Petzing thing. I don't know if that's just a Kyler Murray, Jonathan Gannon situation. I mean, the offensive line has not been great. James Conner, Trey Benson, top 2 running backs out. Marv, been fine this year. Not great, not wide receiver 1 material. Trey McBride, an elite weapon. I just feel like Kyler's been going backwards as well ever since like 2020, 2021, unfortunately. I mean, out of all these guys right here, I mean, Geno's I'm probably the most out on given age. Tua right ahead of him. Like, who would you rather have going forward? Lawrence, Stroud, or Kyler? I still feel like it could be Stroud, but I don't know. That's a tough question. I would love to know what you guys think. Baker Mayfield, I still think he's an MVP candidate. I know they lost to the Detroit Lions, but that's a good team as well. The Bucs are still 5-2 this season, top of the NFC South, and Baker Mayfield has been a big part of that. He's had some unreal wins against the Seattle Seahawks, the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, the Texans still have a good defense, and it is an impressive win. I think he's an MVP candidate this year as well. Yeah, you guys can let me know. Like, do you think Dak should be in this tier? We'll figure this one out. Maybe I don't know if I should have 6 guys in MVP candidates. Maybe Daniel Jones is like in the great quarterback and he should not be in that tier. I'll figure it out towards the end. Jackson Dart. Like, I feel like Jackson Dart's been good enough for this team in the small sample size. Like, they beat the Eagles with Dart, Chargers with Jackson Dart. I mean, the game against the Saints was a brutal loss, and I don't think it was Dart's fault that they ended up losing to the Denver Broncos. That could come down on coaching, the kicking, or the defense. And I think Dart, in a small sample size, has been good enough. He's been making plays for this team, and it feels like a completely different Giants squad, although they're still 2-5 this season. JJ McCarthy, he's been disappointing, but it's a small sample size. It's 8 quarters. He's played like basically 1 more quarter, 2 more quarters than Joe Burrow. So I'm going to throw him in injured, although I would say like young and struggling. Yeah, I think that's fine as well. He could be in the young and struggling tier, which is fine. It's his rookie year. He's allowed to do so. We'll have some other guys in that tier as well. I think Aaron Rodgers has been good enough this year. I don't think he's been a great quarterback. I think he's been a good quarterback. Past couple years, the Steelers offense has been their demise. This year, it's totally been their defense. They put up 31 points on Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals, and they lost to Joe Flacco. It comes down on their defensive game plan and schematics. I think Rodgers' deep balls look fine this year. He threw the ball 70 yards on that Hail Mary attempt to end off Thursday night. And this is with not the best skill position players in the world. Like Jalen Warren has been good for this team this year. The offensive line has been inconsistent. DK's been a good wide receiver one, but what else are you getting out there? It's Calvin Austin, it's Roman Wilson, it's the trio of tight ends of Freiermuth, Washington, and Jonnu Smith. And I think him and Arthur Smith have had a good connection this season. Spencer Rattler, I actually think he's been like boom or bust this year. I think, yeah, Rattler's on a terrible team in the New Orleans Saints, but he's exceeded my expectations for sure this season. And maybe he is going to be the franchise quarterback in New Orleans, or maybe good enough where they don't draft one. We'll see how the rest of the season pans out. I feel like Jaden Daniels this year has maybe been slightly disappointing. I may end up throwing Bo Nix, man, in this tier. I don't know, but I feel like Jaden Daniels has been more boom or bust this year. Maybe that comes back down on the front office. I feel like Adam Peters wasn't that aggressive in the offseason after a 12-5 season with a rookie quarterback last year who was so good. They should have been more aggressive in the 25 offseason, but they weren't. And I feel like you're kind of getting some boom or bust out of Daniels. And has he been good enough? They are 3-4. At least for Jackson Dart, they're 2-2 since he's been a starter. Everybody else here is above 500 at the moment. Brock Purdy has been injured this year. He's played 2 games this season, and Mac Jones has stepped up. I think Mac Jones has been good enough as his team's starting quarterback. I don't know if that comes down on Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, but Kittle just recently came back. Ricky Pearsall's been hurt. Brandon Ayuk hasn't played yet. Juwan Jennings has been hurt. The offensive line has had its injuries. The defense has for sure had its injuries this year. But the 49ers are 5-2. And Mac Jones has been 3 or 4-1 this season. Mac Jones has been great for the 49ers, in my opinion. He's been good enough for sure. Sam Darnold, I don't know if he's as good as the top guys, but man, has he been great this year. He's 100% a tier 2 quarterback. If you wanted to have him in tier number 1, that'd be fine with me. Oh man, has Daniel Jones been that much better than Sam Darnold? I may change this a little bit and drop these two. Although these guys have been, in my opinion, the great quarterbacks this year. Goff has also been really good as well. This is going to be tough at the end of the day. Is it weird to have Jackson Dart in the same tier as Justin Herbert? Maybe Jackson Dart is boomer bust as well. I feel like Bryce Young has been boomer bust this season for the Carolina Panthers. They've had some bad losses, but also some good wins. I mean, it wasn't pretty against the Jets, and he recently got hurt. I still don't think he's been playing the number 1 overall pick. I think Dylan Gabriel... I don't know. They beat the Miami Dolphins over the weekend. Not an impressive win. They also ended up they lost to the Minnesota Vikings. They got blown out last week or 2 weeks ago by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do I think he's struggling? I just think he's a backup in this league. A lot of these guys have gone starter consideration for the most part, but I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be better suited as a backup, but probably the most promising backup given the age out of these guys. Mariota's a backup as well. He's been fine. You can maybe even say good enough when he's played, but I think at this point of his career, he's a notable backup, but a good backup for sure. Cam Ward is definitely young and struggling. He did inherit maybe the worst environment in the NFL. His head coach already got fired. He made some nice throws against the Patriots in week 7, but his wide receiver one is Alec Ayermaner. Calvin Ridley's been disappointing. The offensive line as maybe a collective unit has been disappointing, but Cam Ward has also made some bad throws this year. He's had some bad fumbles. Another one where he just dropped the ball basically in week 7 and it resulted in a defensive touchdown. I mean, I think Caleb Williams has been good enough this year. Maybe this is the good quarterback class. Maybe I move Jared Goff up. Yeah, I think Jared Goff has probably been in that great quarterback tier. Yeah, I think so too. I think I had him in that good enough for a little bit too long. Tyrod Taylor, backup at this point of his career. Brissett, backup. And I think Jake Browning is a backup as well. I mean, just at this point in their careers, I don't think you would really feel comfortable with them as a starter. So I'm kind of looking at this here, right? If I had to bump up one of these great quarterbacks to the MVP candidates, do I bump up Dak Prescott? Do I bump up Josh Allen? Do I bump up Jordan Love, who's been really good by most advanced metrics? Do I say that Aaron Rodgers is a boomer bust quarterback at this point of his career? Do I think Bryce Young is actually young and struggling at this point? Because it does feel like Bo Nix has been a tier better than some of these guys. So maybe I'm going to bump down Bryce Young to young and struggling. I mean, he is the same draft class though as CJ Stroud. So has he just been kind of disappointing? Hasn't really looked like a great number one pick. Yeah, I think the bar is just so low for Bryce Young that it feels like he's exceeding it. So I'm actually going to say he's been slightly disappointing this year. But I think you take that if you're a Panthers fan, as they are 4-3. But when you look at these guys in a vacuum, I think that's what I'm going to go with. I'm just kind of looking back at that good enough tier as well. Like, Mac Jones has been really good in my opinion. I think he's been better than Jaden Daniels. Could come down on playmakers and obviously coaching. Like, Lamar is not going to be an MVP candidate because of the Ravens record, and he's got a smaller sample size than some of the other guys as well. So if you wanted to put any of the great quarterbacks in the MVP candidates, that's fine with me. I would say maybe Dak Prescott has been like the best out of all those guys individually, but obviously Daniel Jones has like the most team success. Maybe Lamar and Allen has the most potential, and Darnold is exceeding expectations, and maybe even Goff as well. So this is what I'm going to go with. I had the most trouble with the good enough tier. You can let me know what you agree or disagree with. Should I change anything? Let me know down below. And if you guys did enjoy, I'd appreciate you leaving a thumbs up. Like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe for more content like this. Catch you on the next one. Peace.